Quick, nerdy, but important side note. If you hear me saying STD a lot, that's because that's what everyone uses in the comments and my brain just followed along. But medically, the more accurate term is STI. Infection means a virus or bacteria is present. A disease is when that infection leads to noticeable symptoms or health complications. Some infections cause symptoms, some don't. A lot of STIs never turn into a disease at all and are treatable. And calling everything a disease just adds unnecessary shame. Same conversation, but better language.
Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, Ali here. And on this channel, we have some casual conversations about sex, relationships, and other fun stuff. I'm also a sex education student with the Sexual Health Alliance, and I love coming on here and making videos for you about all the cool, interesting, sexy, spicy, educational, informative things that I learn. So I am investing in my sexual education so you don't have to. And in this video, we are going to be talking about STDs, sexually transmitted diseases, which is a topic that I haven't really talked about on my channel. Now, it's going to be a little bit of a personal video. I'm going to share more about my personal history with STDs as opposed to giving you like educational information about it. But at the end of this video, I will provide you with some FAQs, frequently asked questions about some basic but very important information that you should know about STDs to calm your mind so that maybe you will try and enjoy pleasure a little bit as opposed to being scared because of contracting an STD. One of the reasons why I want to make this video is because I get a lot of questions about STDs. Actually, correction. It's not questions I get, it's more comments. I get comments in my comment section that I am some kind of walking infection. I am covered in bacteria and diseases and grossness and just like a walking STD because my partner and I occasionally have some experiences with other people together or separately. And I'm here to tell you all that I'm sorry to say, but I have never contracted an STD in my life. I'm not saying I wasn't close because I did have some close calls, which I'm going to get into later in this video. All right, I'm talking about a time where I thought I had herpes and sometimes I wasn't super responsible, but no, I have never contracted an STD before. And I'm very thankful that I haven't because there were times where I was quite irresponsible. So I'm going to tell you about my mindset when it came to sexual health in my 20s versus now and how I see it and what I have experienced. Before I get into the rest of this video, speaking of sexy experiences that I experienced with my partner, I do have a Patreon. I'm going to link that in the description below this video where I talk a lot more about my sexual journey, my sex education journey, my travel journeys, which include some sexcapades, things like that, travel content, behind the scenes stuff. It's just a great platform to connect with me further and also to support this channel because, you know, sometimes my content is a bit sensitive on YouTube. So outside support like Patreon really helps me manage and sustain this channel. So if you join for free or if you join paid, whatever that may be, I just want to say a big thank you to all my Patreon members. Je vous aime. So I'm going to link that down below. Now we're going to get into the rest of this video. So back in my 20s, when I was single and mingling, I was dating a bit for a couple of years and having a lot of fun, meeting guys, going on dates, like great experiences and so on. And I will say that I was not always responsible. All right, I definitely got caught up in the moment many times. And I didn't always use protection. You know, I adopted the pull-out method. So I know this video is about STDs, but obviously, you know, we have to talk about pregnancy a little bit because at the time I wasn't on birth control either. I stopped taking birth control after my long-term relationship because I wanted to give my body a break. So I definitely took Plan B a few times. Not that I ever let anyone finish inside me. I was very careful about that, but still you have like pre-cum, condoms breaking, like anything can happen. But I was very paranoid about unplanned pregnancy. So even if a guy came on my leg or something, I had this weird mindset at the time where I would visualize like little spermies from my leg, like crawl up inside me. So even if that happened, I would take Plan B, which is, if you don't know what Plan B is, it's the morning after pill, emergency contraception that you take to avoid pregnancy. And again, I will say that I got lucky. I never contracted anything. My doctor, I remember I would go see my doctor almost immediately after I had some kind of unprotected sex to get tested, which was the smart thing to do. However, she did shame me a little bit because at one point, I'd say within like a year's time or something, I saw her a few times because I was like, I need to get tested for everything. she looks at me and she's like, you can't just come here every time you have sex to get tested. And I said, yes, I can. But she's like, someday something's going to happen to you. Like, you can't keep having unprotected sex. And by the way, I'm not saying I was like sleeping left and right. It's sounding like I was sleeping with people every night. I can't remember what my body count is now, but it's not that high. Okay. But when you, let's say, are with somebody for 10 years and then you have a year or two where you're single and you're dating people and stuff, obviously you're sleeping with a lot more partners than you once were. So it seems a lot higher, but it wasn't that high. But yeah, she told me, like, something's going to happen to you one day. You need to be careful. Like, you're lucky now, but if you keep doing this and just being reckless, something's going to happen. But thankfully nothing ever did. But I did have one scare. This was New Year's of 2020, I think. I had a great New Year's. It was one of the funnest New Year's I ever had. I had a really fun time with this person that I met. And the next day, and the day after, I started feeling sick. My throat started hurting. Now, at the time, I was working with kids a lot and I would get strep throat at least once every 3 months. I haven't had strep throat in forever, but I haven't worked with kids in forever. But yeah, it's something that I used to get frequently. And yeah, so I started not feeling well. Just like my throat was hurting and it felt strep-ish, but something felt different because I had a really bad fever this time. I remember like my roommate, who was my best friend, was on vacation at the time. I was home alone. I had a really bad fever, to the point where, like, I couldn't eat, I couldn't stand up. My mouth was getting really dry, and I remember developing a sore on my mouth. And I was like, oh my God, I have herpes. And then as the days went by, I started getting more sores. I'm sorry if this is triggering, but I had sores inside my mouth, on my tongue, inside my lips. And this is going to be really gross. I apologize. But at night, my mouth would get so dry that my tongue would stick to the roof of my mouth. And then when I would move or wake up or something, I would move my tongue and it would like rip from the top of my mouth, and then it would bleed a little bit. So the morning I would wake up and I had crusted blood. Anyways, I'm sorry for that visual, but it was gross. And I was so sure and so paranoid and so scared that I caught herpes from this person or the person before that. And I was like, oh my God, Alex, how could you do this? How could you have been so reckless? You've ruined your life. You've just like, why, you know? And I kept remember like praying like, oh my God, like, please don't let it be that. I promise I'll never have unprotected sex again or even kiss anybody or nothing. It could have very well been that. And to be honest, I don't know what I would have done had that been the case. If it was, I would have, you know, obviously educated myself and informed myself, but you know, my life would have changed after that. The way I live, the way I adopt relationships, the way I communicate with people. So yeah, it was pretty scary, but it ended up not being that. Thank God. I got tested for a bunch of different things and it actually ended up being strep throat. It was just a really bad strep throat, one that I haven't had ever. And my immune system was so low that my body broke out into sores. And, you know, there's two types of herpes that you can get. There's the sexually transmitted disease herpes that you can get through sex. And then there's the other herpes, HSV1, which is the kind that you're sort of born with, that often children get in childhood and sort of lives dormant in the body. In some people, they have flare-ups often, occasionally, so on other people, it just lives dormant forever and they never get an outbreak. But in my case, because my immune system was so low, I got an outbreak. So the doctor told me that I probably had the virus inside of me, but it was dormant forever. And when you get an outbreak for the first time, it's like a massive flare-up. Massive. And then he told me, once it's gone, you may never have it again, or you might have an occasional flare-up here and there. But this was, I don't know how many years ago now, 5, 6 years ago? 7 years ago, and I haven't had anything since. So that was like the only time that that's happened to me. So yeah, so it was a little scary, but I can tell you that since that experience, I definitely was more cautious moving forward. It was kind of like a little reminder to be like, you better be careful because something can happen. So fast forward when I met my partner, Gab, we started our relationship by wanting to sleep with people together, women mostly, like threesomes, that kind of thing. And when it came to protection, we would always use a condom with the other girl. So he could, you know, penetrate me without a condom, but whenever he wanted to penetrate her, we would use condoms. So that was our main form of protection. However, I will admit that when it came to oral sex, we would just ask and, kind of had blind faith. Like, okay, so we've been tested, or if you've been tested, and they, would say like, yes, I'm clean. And we would say, okay, we're clean. And because, it's not just penetration where you could catch an STD, you can catch STDs through oral sex as well. And I'll be honest, I've never given a blowjob before with a condom. I don't think I can. Again, not very safe, but a little safer, I guess. But it was still in the early years of learning how to navigate sexual health in these kinds of relationships. And again, like you, I am learning as time goes on, as experiences go on with people I meet and experiences I have, and so on. Now, fast forward a couple years. Actually, let me backtrack. So Gab and I would get tested occasionally for STDs. We would go together, and we would go mostly in places like Mexico because we travel a lot. So we would get medical testing done outside of Canada because it is much more affordable and accessible than it is in Canada. I know we have free healthcare and all, but private testing is friggin' expensive. And if you want a public test, you have to wait for it. And anyways, I'll get into those details afterwards. But yeah, you can get STD testing in Mexico or Thailand or wherever we were. It's very accessible and very affordable. And again, he, has never contracted anything either. So hey, fast forward to now where Gab and I decided to open up our relationship where we play separately and not together is kind of what changed me. So learning about sexual health and my sexual education combined with opening up my relationship where I can play with other people has changed my mindset when it comes to sexual health. Because if I'm going to be playing separately, I was like, oh shit, I need to make sure I'm like really safe, because the last thing I would want to do is play with someone and contract something and then give it to my partner. Like, it's not just me now that I'm like worried about. I have like another human that I have to make sure is also safe. So when we started opening up our relationship and I started going on apps and, meeting people, I can see like some people took it very seriously, by putting it in their profile, like that they get tested regularly or when their last test was, and being like very transparent about these things. And I was like, you know what? I want to do that too. I think it's the adult and responsible thing to do. I also want to practice what I preach, right? I come on here and I talk to you all about sex education and so on. So I guess I wanted to be a good influence. I told myself I'm going to do this the right way and I'm going to go get tested. So even though I hadn't really slept with anybody yet, I went to go get tested, and I went to get a private test because I wanted it done right away. And I said, how much is it going to cost? Anyways, it was around $400, which is crazy. And when I went to see the nurse, she tested for everything and she said, okay, ideally you and your partner should be tested at the same time. You should get tested between every new partner you get. A lot of symptoms only show after 3 weeks or so, 2 weeks. So you need to wait like a 2-week period before sleeping with someone again, like all these things. And I was like, oh my God, what if I want to sleep with a lot of people? Like, I can't pay $400 every time to get tested. That's just craziness. So it's like, I have to find a different solution so I can enjoy myself, but enjoy myself safely, So I went to the public system in Quebec, and you can make appointments, but you have to wait, of course. And then when you finally get the appointment, you have to wait again to get your results, which could take around 2 weeks. And I just thought it was interesting because now that I was entering this new phase of being open and excited about trying things, there's a whole new layer of safety and scheduling and organization that you have to manage when it comes to testing. So that's been interesting to navigate. FYI, if you're watching this and you are from Quebec, I have found a company called Treatable. I'll actually link it in the description below. They have offices all around Quebec and it is covered by RAMQ. The only fee that you have to pay is around $15, which is the sending fee to the lab, but it is very convenient. It is somewhat of a autonomous sort of testing center. You go see a nurse, but she gives you all the things that you need to go take your urine sample and so on, or swabs, anything like that in the bathroom. And they give you this whole kit and stuff like that. And you follow the instructions. It's honestly very well done. So if you are from Quebec and you're watching this, I highly recommend that you check them out. But yeah, so now I regularly schedule STD tests for me and for Gab, and I feel good about it. I feel like a responsible adult taking care of our sexual health. And then when it comes to dating people, I have no shame in being super upfront about testing and so on. I mean, I feel like it's so stigmatized and shamed to bring up sexual health in a conversation with someone. And I feel like there's no shame to be like, when's the last time you were tested? How often do you get tested? It should just be a part of the normal conversation. And so far I have been met with maturity and understanding. So when I asked that question to people on these apps that I had, been using to meet open-minded people, it's expected. It's a part of the conversation. It's not weird or anything like that. And if you do meet someone who is weird about it, then I would say that's a red flag and you shouldn't really be talking to that person, because if they're not taking their sexual health seriously, then I don't know if it's someone that I really want to be with. To be honest, I find it kind of hot when someone is thinking about my sexual health and therefore they go get tested to make sure they're okay so they can have all the fun pleasure with me that we can have. Anyways, that is sort of my journey, my learning journey when it comes to sexual health and STDs. Let me know in the comments below anything, if any of this experience is relatable to you. Again, I'm not coming on here as like a sexpert. I'm just like a normal, whatever that means, human who's had very human experiences. Yes, I've been irresponsible in the past. Who hasn't? But as I age with wisdom and experience and knowledge, I learn from that, and I'm learning how to live a better, healthier life and more pleasurable life, because I did a live the other night on YouTube. Sometimes I do a chilling in the kitchen live on YouTube where I just kind of hop in and chat with you all. And there was someone that made a comment saying, I just want to be monogamous for safety reasons. And I asked him to clarify because I didn't realize he was talking about STDs, but he was like, for STDs. And I said, okay, that's fair. A lot of people, probably even you watching this video, is monogamous for safety reasons because you're scared of catching an STD. But then I asked the question, are you even having sex at home? Maybe you are, and good for you if you are, but I don't know. For some reason, I think a lot of people in long-term monogamous relationships, if you're staying monogamous because you're scared of catching something by sleeping with somebody else, but you're not having any sex at home, like what fun is that? Wouldn't you rather inform yourself on how to protect yourself so you can have meaningful, pleasurable experiences outside of your long-term relationship? By the way, I'm not talking about cheating here. I'm talking about even having fun experiences with your partner or without your partner if you choose to do that consensually. Speaking of which, education, that's the key, right? If you want to have fun, if you want to have pleasure in all the ways, all you have to do is educate yourself. And I've really learned that most people don't, and they're just scared, so they don't do anything about it, which is where this quick FAQ is going to come in on some little tips and facts about STDs. I recommend you also do your own research, and I'm not going to go through anything lengthy. I'm just going to talk about some basic information here. So FAQ number 1, which STDs are treatable? Chlamydia, gonorrhea, syphilis, and trich are all curable with antibiotics. You feeling some symptoms? Then go to the doctor, get tested, get a little pill. It can go away, no problem. Herpes, HIV, HPV, they are not curable, but they are treatable. If you contract one of these, yes, it is a lifetime, long-term situation, but with proper treatment, you can manage all the symptoms and have a very healthy, fun, sexual, safe life. FAQ number 2, when should you get tested after sex? We're talking about 1 to 2 weeks for things like chlamydia and gonorrhea, 4 to 6 weeks for HIV and syphilis, but you probably want to get tested every 3 months if you are sexually active and having multiple partners for a full confidence checkup. Every 3 months. Yes, even if you are in a monogamous relationship, it doesn't hurt to get tested once a year. You go for your blood work test once a year, tell them to test for STDs and things like that. You can either go together or separately for a few reasons. One being, what if your partner's cheating on you and you don't know about it? And then you magically have asymptomatic symptoms and you contract something. And that's how you find out you're being cheated on. You never know. So better be safe than sorry. If you're going for blood work, general blood work, just get like the full workup done just in case. Or maybe you and your couple were on vacation together in Hawaii and you found some sexy solo girl that you decided to have some random threesome with. That is also a reason to get tested together. FAQ number 4, should you tell your partners? Yes, always. It's a part of ethical adult sex. That time that I thought I contracted herpes, I did have to call 2 people actually that I had previously slept with close together prior to that to ask them questions about it. And luckily it wasn't too uncomfortable and they were really cool about it. But I do have some friends that have contracted, something like gonorrhea or chlamydia and had to, go through the roster and call the person that gave it to them. And it wasn't always so comfortable. but you should always be honest about it. People will appreciate honesty. And if you aren't, it's just not cool. Don't do that. FAQ number 5, do symptoms always show up? No, symptoms don't always show up. You can be asymptomatic, like I said. So even if you're not showing any signs of anything, you should still follow the regular schedule of getting tested for STDs, because you never know if you have something. If you are asymptomatic, you don't get tested, you give it to someone else, and that person ends up getting symptoms. That's just gonna suck. Just follow a regular sexual health checkup if you are planning on being sexually active. STDs are a part of being human and sexual. They're not a punishment, they're not a sign that you have failed, and they are not a reflection of your worth. What matters is how you handle them. So with honesty, with care, and responsibility. If you have more questions about sex, sexual health, testing, you can ask me here in the comments below. I will do my best to help you, but I also recommend, if you are from Quebec, local, you check out Treatable. I'm gonna link them below. And I would also recommend that you check out this new STI testing, rapid testing company called testy.co. It is from the US. It's gonna be US based, and it is from an entrepreneur and content creator, Thea Rose. She's the host of Sex Talk Radio. I love her content, and I've been seeing her blow up online. And she is creating a new way to get tested. It's going to be more affordable and way more accessible. So I would highly, highly, highly recommend that you check out her work. And also, just a reminder, if you want to support this channel, I highly recommend that you check out my Patreon. I'm gonna leave that link below this video. It's a space where I share a lot of behind the scenes footage of my sex education journey, my travel content, and so much other stuff. So whether you join free or paid, I just wanna say a big thank you to my Patreon community. So that being said, thank you everyone for watching. Je vous aime.